According to the beloved masked silent slasher Mike Myers, you can't kill the boogeyman. Interesting statement if you ask me. You see, the reality behind that statement is this: the boogeyman is everywhere. Horror is something that consumes our world. It consumes culture, lifestyle. Hey, truth is 1,000 times stranger than fiction, and half the stuff we see on the news today is way more disturbing and fucked up than anything that Stephen King has ever put in a novel or anything David Lynch has ever put on the silver screen. Today, I'm going to be talking a bit more about horror. It's my favorite subject matter, and I know for those of you who are listening in the Chatterbox, it's a big favorite of yours. We're going to be talking about horror movies, horror literature, culture, everything that makes us want to shit in our pants when we watch a slasher film. So, this is Chatterbox. Let's get started. Hey folks, how y'all doing? Welcome to another episode of Chatterbox. I'm Al Tessier, your host, producer, and favorite voice you've probably ever heard whenever you tune into Spotify. So, today we are going to be diving deep into my favorite topic on planet Earth when it comes to cinema, movies, books, you name it, and that is horror. Joining me is accomplished horror fanatic and host of the Murder Coaster podcast, Matthew Brockmeyer. He's accomplished, he's successful, and he knows probably just as much about the crypt as I do, if not more. Nice to have you on the show, man.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Good. Yes, it's good to have another horror addict with me because I think the only other real horror addict I know is my wife. Like, that's pretty much it. Like, some people are just real chicken shits these days.
Well, that's sad, man. You need to make a new friend group. I don't. All my friends are horror fanatics, and I don't want to be friends with you if you're not a horror fanatic. So,
no, that's my glass of vodka. That's what I'm talking about. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. We got an eager audience who wants to know more about what you do as a horror fanatic.
well, I'm a writer. I've got an award-winning novel called Kind Nepenthe, 2 book collections of short stories. Under Rotting Sky, which won a little award and was reviewed in Scream magazine. Some stories from that ended up in an anthology with Stephen King. And I am also a podcaster, host of Murder Coaster Podcast, which is a true crime podcast. And I
love true crime. Frankly, I think I watch way more true crime than almost any other subject matter that one should be watching.
And my co-host is she won the Bram Stoker Award for her novel Daughters of Block Island, and we make it an audio dramatization. We act out the crimes and put in sound effects, and it gets really grisly sometimes and really gory. But at other times we take a literary approach. We just did a 4-episode series on Edgar Allan Poe, studying his entire life and his death and how all the many theories of why or how he died. So
I think there's a whole conspiracy, to be honest, surrounding the death of Edgar Allan Poe and stuff like that. In my honest opinion, seeing as he was probably the first earliest horror genius, the person who was the gatekeeper, who opened up us to the world of horror and horror novels and the storytelling behind it. I don't know. I'd say his demons killed him.
Well, his demons may very well, and those demons might have been liquor and opium. But there's so many theories. Some people think he was scratched by a rabid cat. But
it sounds like a very gruesome way to die, to be honest.
Rabies?
Okay, even more is terrible and stuff like that. Well, I love horror. Literally, I actually just saw Nosferatu with my wife. If you have not seen it, you are definitely missing out. Oh my god.
Saw it twice.
You saw it twice?
I saw it Christmas Day. Me and my son and I went on Christmas Day. The minute it opened, I'm a huge Eggers fan. And yeah, I liked it.
I did too. I thought it was phenomenally well made. I don't want to say it was tough to follow per se, but I do feel like what they were trying to do was hit the hammer to the nail with sticking to like the original Nosferatu rather than, like breaking away from it too much and taking their own spin on it.
Well, I mean, they definitely, I think, put their own spin on it. They add the whole demonic possession. I mean, that's just like straight up Eggers. There were scenes that were just like The Witch, where like she's possessed by the demon and she's laying down and kind of like laughing, but in this scary, childish, demonic way. And then there was all the sex, which I loved. That's not really in there.
Everyone loves sex in movies. Like, it's something that we cannot step away from. I just
personally like it. Some people don't. I've heard a lot of people saying that he was exploiting women and like well, she invited the evil. She is the reason that the evil came. So a lot of people are saying it's anti-feminist, always blaming the women, which I agree with. But I think he's trying to show these tropes, show this Victorian attitude that women were to blame, and to maybe get the conversation going. I don't think he's like confirming the bias. I think he's like exploring the bias.
Good take. Good analogy. I never thought of it that way. I really didn't. I'm not 100% like fully familiar with the original Nosferatu and stuff like that. I'm totally familiar with the world of vampires and bloodsuckers that I actually feel has been way too warped over the years. Would you agree with that?
No, not really. Sorry. I think that it's we just did a couple hour long history of the vampire film on our podcast Murder Coaster, and we started with the very first one and we went through all the mythos. Some of the earliest are the lesbian vampire, that was around when Dracula was around, Carmilla. And it's just there's so much that can be done with the vampire, from the sensual to the animalistic, what blood symbolizes. I just think it's very rich poetically to go anywhere. And some of my favorite versions of the newer ones. My favorite vampire story is Let the Right One In.
Okay, all right. I'll have to put that on my list.
The Swedish version. Watch the Swedish version. And if you get a chance, read the book, which is even better than the movie. You know what I'm talking about, right? With the little girl vampire and like the little boy's bullied. It's about a little boy who's bullied.
I feel like it sort of rings a bell, but I'm not too familiar with it. Like the last little vampire I saw was Abigail with my wife.
I watched that, yeah.
Yes. What did you think of that?
I'm going to be honest, by the end of it, I was like, bored. I mean, it had good special effects. It was bloody, it was gory, but I just felt like it was kind of repetitive and wasn't really going anywhere. But it was fun. I mean, it's a fun. If you're looking for a fun vampire movie, bam, it's good like that.
That's my exact thought. That's my thought exactly. I'm like, this is comedic horror. And to be honest, I'm not opposed to comedic horror under any circumstances. I've mentioned it on one of my previous episodes. I actually wrote a script for, a screenplay for an indie film. I'm looking for the right producer and the right team to make it into a reality. It's called The Demon in the Woods, and I tried to stick with really dark horror. When it comes to horror, my number one go-to is psychological horror. I like stuff that gets inside your head, makes you think, and eventually ends up fucking with your mind in the most morbid ways possible. And that's what I was trying to focus on. But I realized that, you know what? I don't want this to be too dark. It needs to be amusing. So I definitely added many jokes and kind of twists in there. It's a little raunchy kind of jokes and stuff like that, because that's just the way I am. But it's, as I like to put, that perfect bullseye of horror and comedy that balances it out perfectly.
Well, you need to break the tension sometimes. Look at the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's some absolutely hilarious parts. He's like, "Oh, look what your brother did to the door."
Yes, and sometimes, if I watch Friday the 13th, I'm not scared. I laugh my ass off the whole damn time.
Yeah. Well, I'm wearing a Plan 9 from Outer Space shirt, so
Yes, yeah, no, I absolutely, I do call it an addiction, and I mean there are worse things you
Call
can
it a
be addicted.
lifestyle.
A lifestyle, even better,
Absolutely.
even better. Well, my wife's a bit of a gothic kind of woman, so like I'm not saying that she like goes all out, like Adam's Family gothic per se, but definitely she is. If I'm gonna go see a horror film, she's like, okay, I'm in. Let's go.
Nice.
I mean, my favorite holiday out of all of them in the books is Halloween. And one of my favorite go-to destinations is Salem, Massachusetts. If you haven't gone and you like horror, you really are fucking missing out, pals.
I have not been, but my co-host is from Rhode Island, and
Ah,
she
okay.
told me not to go on Halloween. She's like, don't even go there on Halloween. She's like, it's too much. She's like, go there some other time, and you can really enjoy it. But
I will.
I'm in
So just
California. I don't really, you know.
okay. So you're in Cali. You're where it's sunny, it's hot, and there's unfortunately, and you know what? I'm just gonna take a somber moment and let us say there are wildfires that are practically burning the state to the ground, and we all need
Just
to
Los
be
Angeles.
together. Well, they say it starts with LA, and then but we've seen what's happened in the past, and it's just spread like crazy. So I say we at least need to pay our respects and hope to God that the people in LA are safe, secure, and doing well at this time.
Yeah, it's insane, dude. It's absolutely insane. Iconic spots, Malibu, and it's devastating to look at. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's just the destruction of natural beauty, is what it is. It's not simply like burning Tinseltown to the ground. It's the destruction of like these
The
areas
Santa
that
Barbara Mountains, yeah.
yeah, places that we love and, in my opinion, take advantage of or take for granted, to be honest, as to how remarkable they are. Yeah. Now let's get back to horror because that's what we're here to talk about. Yes, horror. I do slightly back your wife up on Salem. Here's the thing:
No, not my wife, my co-host.
your co-host, not
My
your
co-host
wife. Your
is not my
co-host.
wife. No,
Okay,
she lives
okay.
in Rhode Island, and I
Okay,
live in California.
Okay, so with your co-host, I definitely
I do have a wife that loves horror. Oh, but she's different.
Good.
Different
Okay,
person.
so yes, I definitely back up your co-host 100%. With Salem, if you do want to go around spooky season, you have to go at like the first week of October. After that, avoid Salem at all costs. You cannot get into a restaurant unless you have made reservations at least 3 days in advance. You cannot get a hotel or Airbnb under any circumstances unless you're staying in a much, much further out suburban area. You're going to see at least, I don't know, 20 to 30 people all dressed as the Sanderson sisters. Like people, and I don't know. It's just, it feels more like it's Comic-Con for horror addicts. That's the best way to describe it. If you like horror and you like stuff that's scary, it's the go-to Comic-Con.
Do you go to Necronomicon in Rhode Island, in Providence?
No, I do not. You
should check that out this summer.
I almost went to one of the Comic-Cons in Providence, but missed out on the opportunity.
Oh, it's based. It's like Necronomicon, so it's all like H.P. Lovecraft based.
Okay, gotcha. I actually did an episode talking about Comic-Cons. One of my guests, who's an old friend of mine, he goes to like so many of the conventions and stuff like that and gave us all the details about how awesome it is. I know it's a phenomenal experience for like media junkies and people who may be considered nerds, but we know fall into a category of cool.
Yeah, definitely.
So, when it comes to horror, what would you say is the go-to for horror? I told you, I love psychological horror that just fucks around with your mind and in morbid ways and stuff like that. Like, my go-to is some of the older stuff, The Exorcist, The Shining, The Silence of the Lambs, which I know people don't totally consider horror, but if you really absorb...
Consider it horror. I'll fight for it. I fight for everything. I'm like, it's fucking horror, dude.
It is.
Yeah.
It is like...
People don't want to call things horror because it's got that stigma, but
yeah. Well, here's the thing. So the author who
They call The
wrote.
Substance. You know The Substance? Have you seen that?
I loved The Substance.
So
I
good,
saw
so
it with
good,
my
right?
wife.
They're calling it a comedy musical.
What the fuck?
Demi Moore won the Golden Globe. She won the fucking Golden Globe.
Yes.
Best actress in a comedy musical.
Like,
can you fucking believe that? It's fucking insane. Are you serious? It's like the goriest horror movie that's come out in the past decade.
Okay, some of the people in Hollywood, I know that they're doing bad right now, but you are really fucked up in the mind if that is what you are going to define The Substance as.
Yes.
What would you describe it as? If
body
you
horror.
chose a genre? Body horror?
Yeah. Undoubtedly, easily.
Yeah. I wouldn't exactly I'd call it a mesh between body horror and almost kind of psychological horror, because the vibe...
Or art house, where they're making these poetic statements and they're trying to use horror metaphorically to, talk about society and stuff. Which was brilliant. It was a brilliant movie. I fucking loved it,
Oh, definitely. Not much dialogue, but really the imagery, the videography, and the focus they had on that change, as I like to put it, that's what really made it brilliant. And what is it? I believe Dennis Quaid's character, who, Margaret Qualley said he was actually the scariest thing about the film.
My wife said the grossest thing was watching him eat shrimp.
Exactly. That's what everyone fed off of, was him when he's just stuffing his face. Because my theory is, and I don't know if it's true, I think they may have modeled crawfish, yes. I think they may have modeled his character and persona after another Harvey, who we all know about.
Oh, yeah.
Weinstein, yeah. Or just kind of the dark reality of the... I like to describe it as the...
Dude, I've hung out with some Hollywood producers, and they're just like that. They're total fucking assholes, yeah.
Really?
And they don't give a fuck about it. And they're like sociopaths, and like they don't care about people.
I call it the underground sex club of the business.
I didn't see that side of it. Yeah.
Well, think about like some of the stuff you have to do. I think, what was it, like back in the 80s and stuff, if you gave a guy a blowjob, they would sign you with a 3-picture deal.
Marilyn Monroe, when she signed her 3-picture deal, her first contract, she signed it and she said, "Well, that's the last time I have to give a blow. That's the last time I give a blowjob if I don't feel like it."
What I tell you, yeah. Like, so I know a lot about this, and I did a whole episode about it. And if you don't know my story, make sure to listen in to the Was I in a Cult podcast, because I am actually a ex-member of a theatrical cult. And I am the one member of the group who has become kind of like the big advocate, not exactly their knight in shining armor, but I've been very vocal about it. I've been featured on the Trust Me podcast, the Was I in a Cult podcast. And one thing I learned from my experience, I mean, I would not be where I am today had I not made the decisions within that group that I did. But one thing I learned about was the Hollywood underworld. The really dark stuff, the stuff that happens when the camera ain't rolling and when the curtain closes.
It's a long history, man. I mean, from the very beginning, that's the way it was. It's a culture,
Oh, definitely, 100%. And yes, but getting back to The Substance, my take on it was I definitely saw a level of psychological horror within it. And when I say that, kind of focusing in the idea that you are your own worst enemy and you don't even know about it. Kind of, because with Demi Moore's character, what you see is a woman who wants a level of, I guess one might say, immortal youth that is inaccessible, and she's willing to go to whatever length it takes to make sure that she achieves that overall goal, regardless of the price one has to pay.
And it also makes me think, what is the self? Who is the self? Who truly are we? You know what I mean? We're who we think we are at any certain time, but those people aren't exactly the same at all.
No, definitely not at all.
It's a really deep film.
What did you think of Margaret Qualley's performance? Because I really I first saw her in the movie
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
No, The Nice Guys, with Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling. That was the first time I was introduced
that's right. I've seen that movie. That's a while back now.
Yeah.
She must have been young as shit in that. I didn't even I just remember from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because she was like a Manson girl, and I got a thing about Manson girls.
And here's the kick. All of the people who played the members of the Manson family in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, her, Austin Butler, their careers have skyrocketed tenfold since the movie came out. Like, Austin Butler is Elvis Presley. I don't think you can get any bigger than playing the King.
The King. Nice.
Yes, if you haven't seen it, watch it. He
saw it?
Went. Yes, I saw a lot of interviews with him, and he went to the greatest lengths he possibly could to achieve it. Because for me, and I've talked about this before, is that when you are playing a real life person, whether they be good, evil, or straight up psychotic, you have to be, and some people find this a controversial statement, you have to be respectful towards them. Because one way or another, for good or for ill, they were a real person.
I mean, yeah, at the same time, you might want to display them as villainous, but everyone should be, like, given depth, no matter who they are, in a way, you know what I mean?
Yes,
but I guess there is a responsibility with real people, for sure.
Yeah,
which is interesting is as true crime person and doing all this true crime stuff. It's like, wow, you're always, sometimes I'm like, forget almost, you know what I mean? You got to remember these are real people.
Yes, exactly. I say all the time, truth is way stranger than fiction, and some of the realities of our world are far more disturbing than anything Stephen King has ever written in his career. And he's written more than 50 books.
Yeah, you couldn't put this stuff in a book because people wouldn't believe it. It's too wacky and too disgusting and too fucking weird.
Yeah, definitely 100%. Like, did you see Dahmer? Did you see the Dahmer?
Yeah.
What did you think?
I watched it twice and it's 5 hours long. 10 hours of Dahmer. Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was fabulous. So, I know all about the case and stuff, and I thought they did just an excellent job.
Me too.
And how they brought in the civil rights part of it, and talked about all that. I thought that was great. Said a lot about society and people. And Jesse Jackson. They showed Jesse Jackson giving a speech. I thought that was great.
Yes.
And they also did that documentary too, the Dahmer tapes. That was pretty good.
I have not seen that yet.
They kind of came out at the same time as like companion pieces.
I've seen the legendary Stone Phillips interview about Dahmer. One thing, I taken a lot of psychology classes throughout my academic experience, and I used it to my advantage to read people. If you see the Stone Phillips interview, yes, Dahmer was a sociopath. He displayed no emotion, but if you just pay attention to his eyes, that's how you read the emotion that's flooding through him, but he cannot display.
Interesting. That's when the cannibalism started.
Yeah, that's I don't consider that series to be true crime. I consider that to be horror because it was fucking disturbing.
True crime and horror constantly are emerging and in and out of each other and affecting each other, and can easily be seen as one or the other.
One thing that I really think about horror a lot these days is that horror is, as I like to put it, it's coming back. I feel that
it's a golden age.
Yes, I feel that for a certain period of time that a lot of producers and directors chose to step away from horror, and I think about stuff from the 80s and stuff like Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, that there was this kind of instinct within producers, writers, and directors that if we want to make it scary, we just need to have blood and more blood. That's going to make it scary. But the kicker is this: it doesn't make it more scary under any circumstances. Like I said, I laugh when I watch the movie Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm not startled under any circumstances.
There's very little blood in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, if any. And it's one of the scariest movies just from the tone, the music, every single thing about it, the angles that the camera goes in. It's just the shadows, it's a scary movie. And there's nothing that you can put your finger on And there's no gore. There's also very little blood in Halloween.
Yeah, for horror,
Halloween's scary. It's a good one because it's like this dreamscape nightmare. Because everyone has a dream where they're being stalked by this faceless figure. So I think it hits on these primordial kind of feelings,
For me, what I love most about Halloween is just the score, the music.
Yes.
That's my favorite part. And I'm sure that's probably for a lot of people, that's what really, like, in my opinion, I feel that the music brings it to life and helps to amplify it to a new level.
John Carpenter's a master, a musician, as well as filmmaker, for sure.
Yes, definitely 100%. But you said that we're entering a golden age of horror. Like, what do you say when you define golden age? Like, give me some
824.
824?
824. So the production company that's making all the movies.
824, yes, they are.
Every one of them. Every one of their movies is fantastic.
Oh yes, I watched We Live in.
I mean, Nosferatu's 824. You know what I mean? The Witch, Lighthouse. She's just so Hereditary, Midsummer.
Midsummer
Beau Was Afraid.
was actually so okay. My number one celebrity crush in the business, more than anything else, is the gorgeous, beautiful, talented Florence Pugh.
You must have really liked old what's it called? The Atomic Bomb movie.
Yes, I love her.
She was looking pretty good in that one.
Yes, no, sure, her career is taking off.
She's fantastic. She's an incredible actress.
But Midsommar, because being a former cult member myself, that movie was actually really tough for me to watch at certain points. Like I said, truth is way stranger than fiction. So that one kind of like struck me inside a bit. Yeah, definitely. Yes, yeah. But so A24, they are the ones who are reintroducing the golden age. Do you feel?
I think so, because I don't like Blumhouse is fun. I just think that they're cheesy. They're not up to that standard, that the artistic standard. It's like this. It's all art now. You don't really see like slasher films. Even there was a slasher film just recently, but they tried to make it like an art film. What was that? Did you see that? Where it's just like really, really boring and quiet, like from the point of view of the killer, and he's going through the forest. What the hell was the name of that one? Just came out recently, but a lot of people liked it. It was super arty, but it was just like so boring. But I think like horror's become an artistic medium now, and it's really fascinating to see what people are doing with it. Bizarre stuff. The Lighthouse. Yes. What the fuck is that?
One thing I like about A24 is that they are willing to throw away what I refer to as the rule book and do it the way they want it to. Like, what the rule book is. Am I correct?
Well, the traditional 80s rule book they throw away, but I would say that they keep in line with classic films. Like you were saying, The Shining or The Exorcist, things like that, where you're on a deeper level, more literary. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, when I say the rule book, I mean the way Hollywood operates these days, which is everything has to be censored, everything has to be soft. There's certain stuff you can't say under any circumstances because we have a generation that's so easily triggered and stuff like that.
No, but the movies are insane these days. I mean, the things that they're showing. God, did you see the new Terrifier movie? Terrifier 3? Dude, like a close-up of a dude's dick and balls getting chainsawed off. Just getting straight chainsawed off. Images of Jesus, Mother Mary, little first 5 minutes, little children being killed. Like, it is a non-stop insane gore fest. There was very little storyline. It was a stupid movie, but I fucking loved it.
Like, if there's no storyline, then is it really worth watching? That's the question.
No, if you like gratuitous violence and gore, really well shot, like very beautifully shot, but really, with this cool-looking clown that's really spooky looking, and it's really spooky and creepy, but. No, it's
my
not.
favorite horror clown will always be Pennywise.
Nice.
Yes, yeah. Bill Skarsgård, he nailed it, and of course, Nosferatu, he was on his A game in Nosferatu.
Yeah. I mean, he was like
unrecognizable.
Unrecognizable, yeah.
And just the way he was able to really embody the character. He is truly his father's son. Because his father can play a really fucked up individual. I mean, you've seen The Girl in the Dragon Tattoo.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Dragon Tattoo. Yeah. He played a really fucked up individual in that movie. So I feel that his son has inherited that quality.
Did you ever watch that old TV show, Hemlock Drive? He was in it. He played a vampire in it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No. But definitely, like, the world of horror is changing, and I'm glad that they're really kind of stepping away from the norm and getting back into the classic and stuff like that. Back when, because I watched so much stuff from like the 70s and parts of the early 80s and stuff. When they knew how to just get under your skin, when they knew how to twist with your mind, and they make you think and look at reality from a totally different angle.
Which is what art is supposed to do. You just defined what art is supposed to do.
Yes, exactly. 100%. For me, though, and you may find this ridiculous, the most disturbing, horrifying, fucked up movie I ever saw in my life was A Clockwork Orange, directed by my favorite director and my inspiration, Stanley Kubrick. That was the most fucked up, disturbed movie I'd ever seen in my life.
Yeah, it's a good one. You know, I've seen it literally probably hundreds of times since I was a little tiny child.
How young are we talking? Like, when did
10,
your parents?
11.
10? Okay.
My parents weren't there. You know, they just the TV was all mine.
Oh, okay,
Cable TV.
Got
I was allowed to walk to the video store and rent movies.
I mean, I have no interest in like brainwashing my kids with Disney and like Disney, DreamWorks, Illumination shit and stuff like that. I'm like, you're gonna watch, when I have kids, they're gonna watch the movies Dad likes. Like, literally, I plan on letting them watch the movie American Sniper when they're 5.
Yeah, well, they don't always react to it in the way that you want them to. I have 2 kids. One's 19, one's 11.
Okay.
And I've gone through the horror thing with both of them. It's interesting how they react.
Define interesting. Like, when it comes to exposing kids at a young age to horror, like, how do
they don't
you
like it?
Feel?
Some kids do. Now, like, I have friends whose kids like it and stuff. My son didn't really. Well, I tried to show him like Night of the Living Dead, and it was too scary for him, and other things. And then he got like an interest in it. He had a deep interest. This is really weird because we're total film geeks and buffs. So I started showing him like German expressionism, like the original Nosferatu, and he liked that. Metropolis was like one of his favorites. So he's like into these weird 1920s black and white movies. And then as he got older, you know, he wanted to. And then I remember when the Stephen King's first It came out. He was pretty little. He was probably like 11, 10. He wanted to see it, and I was like, well, I'm going. You can come see it. And he came with me, and he was nervous. And like when it got to that scene in the basement, he's like, I don't know. I'm really scared. I don't know. And I'm like, well, you know, I'm here in the movie theater. I'm not going anywhere. You're just going to have to like close your eyes. But
well,
he accepted it. And ever since then, he's been able to watch just about anything. You know,
well, I love the new It and It Chapter 2 more than I do the Tim Curry version. And
that's what I'm talking about, the new one, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep, and I can explain to you why it's perfect. So Stephen King was on set, not all the time, but on a vast number of occasions. I mean,
he's in it.
He makes a cameo in It Chapter 2, yes, yeah. Because the director was determined to get it right. If you know enough about Stephen King and his
there was no orgy
and opinion, there needs to be an orgy.
Yes, there does. How are you going to defeat? How are you going to defeat a space spider without a teen orgy? To think about it, it's the only way you can defeat a space spider.
Can you? Is that really the way? Is
That's the way.
That powerful?
That's right.
I mean, sex is the reason why we're able to produce human life.
No. It's probably a smart move to like leave that part out. We're just gonna leave
Yeah.
this part out.
Because you mentioned that, like, I don't want to say you have a relationship with the king of horror, but you mentioned Stephen King in regards to your credentials with writing in horror. Elaborate on that for me.
I was just in a book with Stephen King, like a book of
Oh,
short stories, and he was in there. It's a bunch of really heavy hitters in that book. I don't know, it was a lot of really good writers in there, and I was just lucky enough to get in there. But it was pretty cool to see your name next to Stephen King. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's,
definitely. You've hit the jackpot.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty
because
fun.
here's the thing that I think some people know about Stephen King and others don't, is that when it comes to like the adaptations of his novels and stuff, he's gonna take it very, very personally if you fuck up. Like
I
literally,
don't know if that's even true, oh man. He notoriously gave Stanley Kubrick a world of shit.
he
And
hated.
they just had like a personal fucking thing going on right from the beginning. But well, what happened was Stanley Kubrick did an interview in Playboy magazine, and he's like, "Yeah, I got this story from this guy. He's a hack, a horror writer. It wasn't even scary. I had to try to make it scary. No one even died is in it." And he's like, you know, because Halloran doesn't die in it. You know, he's like, I had to make it someone die to make it scary. And Stephen King was like, "Really, man?" You know. And at this time, Stephen King wasn't Stephen King like we know him today. He was just a new writer,
Mhm.
and they just had beef, man, that they never got over. But oh, I mean, like, there were some terrible King adaptations, like the Boogeyman that just came out. Did you see that?
No,
It's
I didn't.
it's based on a short story that from Night Shift, and there's already been a couple different film versions over the past 3 fucking decades. And he was like all about it. Oh, this is great. This is wonderful. Da da da. And it had like deviated so far from the story, and he's still, or like the new Firestarter. Did you see that?
I want to. I want
It
to.
is awful. It has nothing to do with this. It's like completely different. They just made a whole new different story. You know, like and he was all about it. So I just think that if he's cool with you as a director and stuff, he'll be cool with your shit. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I saw an interview with him about his relationship with Stanley Kubrick. He said they only met once, and he said he described Kubrick as being very impulsive. I'm like, everyone knows that Kubrick was impulsive. I shared the same birthday as the guy.
Do you?
And
Nice. That's great.
yes, I'm very proud of it because he's
Nice.
my inspiration for writing. I talked about this in another one of my episodes. When I write a script, I'm currently working on my second script right now. It's called My Cousin Juan. It is about the drug wars in Latin America and their impact on the United States, told from a different angle. Because here's the thing about Kubrick, he never did the same thing twice. If you reflect on his entire career and every movie he made, he was a chameleon. He was a very, not exactly impulsive individual, but he was one for change. And they even said, if you want it easy, just don't work for Kubrick, because he was going to make it tough. And one of the most famous things he said this to Malcolm McDowell: I don't know what I want, but I know what I don't want.
Right.
That says it all.
Yeah, he'd make you do like 86 takes. I mean, he broke Shelley Duvall. He's like straight broker. But I mean,
He
you can
holds the
tell that
world
she's
record.
broken, and it looks beautiful. It's fantastic. You're like, she's fucked up. You know what I mean?
He actually gave her shit on set sometimes. He was
Yeah,
giving her a bit
dude.
of shit because I
No,
guess she was
like
just a
mad shit.
sensitive
There's all
woman.
kinds of footage of it. There's footage of her doing coke, and he's going, "That's not going to help you, Shelley."
It was the 80s.
Because his daughter was
Everyone
made
did
a
coke.
little documentary about The Shining, Kubrick's daughter, that you can find. It's like on YouTube and stuff, and it's like half of it is just him giving Shelley Duvall shit, like just
Really?
and being so cool with Jack Nicholson, just being like buddy buddy with him, and just. But look at the performance he got.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it destroyed her, but it is definitely her legacy. That's the thing.
Yes.
Like, Kubrick broke her, but gave her something that we will forever remember. And like, here's the thing also about horror, is when it is like our favorite character always ends up being the villain. And what's your take on villains? Like, what would you say is the perfect villain?
Oh, geez, I don't know. You know, I like Patrick Bateman. He's pretty fun. You know, Hannibal Lecter's a pretty good villain. Like for me, I like more humans than monsters.
Same,
You know?
very much
Yeah.
so. My favorite villain in the book is the gentleman villain, as I describe it. Somebody who is charming, charismatic, manipulative, persuasive.
Hannibal Lecter.
Exactly, Hannibal Lecter. The real origin behind Hannibal Lecter. So he was not inspired by any real life serial killer or murderer. The author of the books was actually a crime journalist in the 1960s for like really vicious crimes and stuff like that, like homicide. And every single portion of the Hannibal Lecter saga and the things that made Lecter are inspired by true crime events. They're inspired by actual murders and actual homicides.
Well, yeah. Well, the part where he has, you know, the young agent going in to interview him is based on the FBI going to interview Ted Bundy about the Green River Killer. Because, you know, the FBI went to Ted Bundy and were asking him, how do we catch this fucking guy? And Ted Bundy told him, when you find a body, just stake it out and wait, because he's going to come back to have sex with it, which ended up to be totally true. But they just couldn't leave a body laying there in the forest, rotting like that, like staked out. And then, of course, Buffalo Bill, the you know, Silence of the Lambs, he's based off of like Ed Gein.
A mesh of Ed Gein, and his persuasion is based on Ted Bundy. Because Ted Bundy, if you know enough about him, like I know a ton about American serial killers, I've been studying them for years. Bundy would put his arm in a sling to pretend that he was injured, and he used that as his tool to lure women to their death.
And he did that, yeah. Well, you say you're about a size 28. She was an American girl.
I thought this was a podcast, not karaoke night. No, and also, spoiler alert, anybody who likes the show Monsters, their next season is Ed Gein.
I know, I'm so excited. I saw the pictures, it looks
definitely, great. Definitely, I'm really stoked. My question is this: can he live up to being Ed Gein?
I don't know, that guy, what's his name? I can't remember. The Sons of Anarchy guy? He was in my town the other day at the thrift store. They made a big deal about it. They're like, what's he doing here at the thrift store? Oh, well. I think he seems fine. I used to watch Sons of Anarchy. I have a friend who used to write for it and stuff.
Yes, you know what? I'm starting to think to myself, I need to maybe move out to LA if I really want to make it in the big shots and stuff like that. Because
they say that you have the same chance of winning the lottery as you do moving to LA with a script. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Like,
so crazy,
rejection is brutal. I saw an interview with the Duffer Brothers, the guys who created Stranger Things. They got rejected 20 times.
Yeah.
Before they were able to finally sell the script and stuff. And my screenplay has gotten a few bites, but people have definitely strolled away. The number one feed I've gotten more than anything else is that rather than make it a feature film, it should be broken down into a miniseries, because I wrote it in an auteur style.
Well, the miniseries is where it's at today. I mean, I see things. Did you see the new Salem's Lot? I thought that was terrible, and I thought they should have made it like a 10-hour fucking miniseries. You know, it's such a complicated story.
Yeah, I didn't have the chance to see it, but I definitely will back you up 100%. Because
they changed the story. It's terrible.
I've read the book, so I know for a fact it's a very elongated and stretched out story and stuff. And that even though we have the classic movie and everything like that,
the Tobe Hooper version.
Correct, yes. There's so much more to tell in Salem's Lot than you can put on the screen for 2 hours. It's definitely something.
Yeah, it's about a whole town.
And actually, if I were to direct it, I would shoot the whole thing in black and white.
Interesting take. Did you see Midnight Mass? A lot of people compare that to Salem's Lot. Oh, great! It's a great movie. Mike Flanagan, you know.
The reason I would shoot it in black and white is because I call that adding the Hitchcock element.
I
Because
like black and white movies. Yeah.
Yes, because if we didn't have Alfred Hitchcock, we probably would not have horror. He was not exactly horror per se, but he was the master of suspense.
Absolutely.
He introduced us to the world of it, and like we know, the Lighthouse was a black and white version, stuff like that. I feel that
Psycho is like a legendary horror milestone, masterpiece, icon. Yeah,
definitely. I actually, what is it? One of the scripts I've been working on. I believe I did it in. I think I did in The Demon in the Woods. I actually made a punchline joke about Psycho, just to add to the element of of horror. I like really had to reflect deeply. It took me 5 years to write the script, so it's something I'm proud of and stuff like that. But in order to really appeal to an audience, I needed to add jokes and humor from other horror movies. Like in it, one of the lines is about the main characters were performing what they describe as a half-ass exorcism, and they're talking to a guy, and he's like, I thought that's something that only priests in Hollywood movies do. Because if anybody's familiar with The Exorcist, like, you'll know what I'm talking about. My dad actually met the actor who played the young priest in The Exorcist.
Really? Damien?
Yes, he did. Yep, he met.
I know about that guy a little bit. He was like a stage actor in New York, right?
Yes, he was big. He was in the theater world,
yes.
Not really the Hollywood world, and he did a lot of writing too.
Yeah.
Yes, how he got the role, I don't really remember per se. Did you see the new Exorcist film? The Exorcist.
Yes. Unfortunately, I had the displeasure of seeing it.
Okay, describe displeasure. Tell me what was so displeasuring about it.
Oh, I don't know where to start. I mean, just the idea that they had. All right, here's one of my pet peeves. Helen Bernstein. They bring her in there. They probably paid her all this money to make this cameo, and she just makes the most ridiculous cameo, and it seems like she's laughing through it. And then all of a sudden, they just like stab her in the eyeball. Like she's on the movie for it's like a couple minutes, and it's just like utterly. It was almost comedic. I almost laugh at what happened. And then they bring Linda Blair in. I don't even think she had a line. She just like shows up out of nowhere at the end for no reason. It was just felt like very.
She had, I think, like 2 lines. I think 2 lines max.
It was like "I love you, Mama" or something. Yeah, and it was like. Yeah. It was just, and that whole storyline there with them two was just like so forced and ridiculous and like told, not seen in any way. You know what I mean? Like, and I just felt like everything was over the top. And when they brought in all the different religions and stuff, I'm not a religious person. I'm actually, if you want to know the truth, like, a complete atheist.
Religious at
okay,
all.
But The Exorcist is in a Catholic world. It's a Catholic story in a Catholic world. So if you went and watched Conan the Barbarian, you'd be like, well, this is the barbarian world. This is the world that they live in. And so when you watch The Exorcist, it's the Catholic world. And you take that, you're like, this is the way the Catholic Church is set up to think, with all their weird demons and devils and bullshit. And they were introducing all these other new religions and stuff, you know what I mean? And bringing them in and trying to bind them. And it just felt so forced and like an attempt to maybe be like more... inviting or something more, but it just, which would normally maybe work and be cool, but I felt in that circumstance it did not work, and it was just truly terrible. And the 2 girls made it even trite, and then the main actor, the main guy, the father of the 2 girls, that guy couldn't act, man. I mean, he had the same facial expression the entire. There's like this bland.
Oh, definitely, 100%. He was bland. He was.
Yeah.
I don't want to say straightforward per se, but he definitely stuck to only one. He stuck to what he knew. He didn't really embody the idea and stuff like that. He didn't really soak in the genre. He should have soaked in the genre a bit more, and I feel if he had done that, he would have gotten better props than how he performed, because he was very bland in my opinion. I definitely myself, in regards to him, I was disappointed.
And you see Mike Flanagan's now making one.
Really?
Yes. A prequel,
Yeah.
I think, maybe. I don't know, but it's under production, is happening. The script's been approved. A pre-production is underway. It's
Then
on.
you talk about like how it revolves around the Catholic world and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I have actually considered this, and I think, I don't know, because I'm a little apprehensive about writing it, because I know how judgmental the Catholics are and stuff about the real Catholicism. I want to write a movie about the pedophilia
Yeah.
within the Catholic Church.
Yeah, dude.
I feel, not to stray away from horror, but focus on horror in regards to what I said. The reality is 10 times stranger than fiction, far more disturbing than anything Stephen King has written in his career.
Did you see The Heretic?
No, I didn't. No, I
Heretic.
didn't. I heard about it.
That's
And I
good.
need to see it. Because here's the thing, so much has surfaced within the past 5 years now about like the real inner workings of the Catholic Church, and there's actually a movement going on as we speak within the Vatican. The new generation of priests and reverends are trying to organize and get legal justice for every single victim of Catholicism pedophilia before the elder generation dies out.
Too little, too late.
Definitely. I was talking about it with some coworkers of mine who have their own experience within the church, and they said, yeah, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen, because they have way more power than we actually are truly aware of. But I feel that it's time that somebody broke the mold and took it to a new level and showed the reality of religion.
Didn't that movie win the Academy Award? About the newspaper article, a newspaper journalist in Boston that broke the story? Michael Keaton played it. He might have even won an Academy Award.
What was
that
I
called?
can't remember.
The story, the something like the
I can't remember. I know what you're talking about.
byline, the tagline, the
headline, I think.
headline.
I
It's
can't
not.
remember.
It's not. But it's just like that. It's like the headline. Yeah, something like
in
that. Yeah.
realm. Yes, yeah.
It was really good.
Yeah. Yeah, so like if people ever,
But they should make a horror version of it. I mean, it's so creepy. Catholic stuff. I like Catholic stuff because it's so fucking creepy. I have like some Mother Marys around here and shit.
Me too. Like,
The imagery is so dark and weird.
In the Demon in the Woods, one of the characters is actually a priest, but he's different. Like
The
like
good
you
priest?
walk into no.
No,
He's
bad.
he's the priest who is not totally in touch with tradition. Like I've already visualized the scene and stuff like that. When you walk into his office and stuff, you see on his desk the Book of Revelations and like a journal, and right there in front of him is a picture of Father Damien Amorth, the Pope's exorcist and stuff. So you can tell that this guy is not your traditional priest. This is a guy who really is more fascinated in the inner workings of religion, like the dark
The
shit.
demonologies of it.
Yes, the demonologies and stuff.
I love that stuff. I love demons and shit, man.
Yes, yeah. And yeah, I thought that would be definitely something that needed to be brought to light. And I really am thinking about I've got too many scripts kind of in the works right now, and I need to focus on them. You're a writer, so you know how it is. We get 1,000 brilliant ideas in one sitting, but then we sit down and are like, okay, one step at a time, one story at a time. Yes, it's hard work. Like right now, like here's the reality. The Demon in the Woods only took me 3 days to write. I just sat down on my ass, like every good writer does, had my eyes cemented to my laptop for like 4 to 6 hours each day, and just reviewed it, typed until, okay, I got that spicy ending, end script. But it took me 5 years of reviews, opinions, criticism in order to get it perfect.
Writing is rewriting.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. And I told myself, well, the one like I said, I'm currently working. I had started a script that's inspired by my cult experience called Vernon Hills. I've actually put that on hiatus because I want to. It's based on. It's inspired by my own experience and the experience of about 20 other people. So part of my mission is to not just do them justice, but be very true to them, because these were people who were not just deeply affected, but also were by my side through some of the hardest times of my life and kind of helped to keep me going. So I want to actually save that a bit and kind of consult with them, talk with them, and maybe even like record some of their stories and experience before I proceed any further. And then, like they see it on the silver screen and they're like, Al, you didn't tell us. Why didn't you talk to us? Like, this happened to all of us. And so, so I'm focusing on My Cousin Juan, which is about the drug wars and stuff like that. You love true crime. Do you? So here's the thing. Do you ever watch those videos about airport arrests with drugs?
Sometimes I get them in my feed, like in like Reels or TikTok. Yeah, I get them. Sure, I watch that kind of shit. I watch. It's like a guilty pleasure because I mean, it's not really like studying. I consider true crime like a study of society, a study of culture, of peoples, of law. You know what I mean? Watching drunk ladies get arrested on TikTok isn't technically true crime, but it's pretty guilty pleasure. But I watch all that shit. People getting busted at the airport, all kinds of weird shit, shootouts, some car chases, all that shit.
Yeah, so I watch them a lot, and my wife is from Latin America, so she knows some of the inner workings. So let's put it this way. People need to understand not every drug kingpin is Walter White or Gus Fring. What if I told you that some of these people are doing it solely out of desperation because they know that like a crackhead in North Carolina will pay them a very pretty penny so that their family can be stable?
Oh yeah, I would say 99% of them are doing it out of desperation. The ones that get caught. The ones that get caught.
Yes.
The ones that get caught are usually, totally. They wouldn't be putting themselves in that situation.
Yeah, because people think too much about like the drug wars. They think about the blood, they think about the violence, they think about the mutilation in the streets of Juarez. This story is about the other side, the more human side, the desperation. This is all I know. This is what will keep my family alive.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. As a writer, for me, whether it be horror, whether it be truth, whether it be comedy and stuff, I like to really break the mold and kind of focus on how do I put it per se, the other side of the story that is more truth than what we perceive as reality.
I mean, that's what literature is all about.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, you as a writer, tell me a bit more. What do you focus on? If you're writing the next spicy horror novel or comic or whatever, what's your go-to methodology? What angle are you aiming at?
One of the main things I explore, one of the things that scares me the most as a father, and is the annihilation of a family, a family breaking apart, and the culture that binds a family breaking apart. So I'm out here in Northern California, and it's like this whole pot growing culture, this whole pot growing world. So like a lot of my stories are about families that are involved in cannabis and the horror stories that can come from that. So like the book story I'm working on right now is about a family, and they were like hippies in the woods, and the dad was all about organic gardening and homesteading and being close to the earth, but the mom was moving more in towards a money direction and also like processing cannabis, turning weed into like gummies and soda pops, lollipops, oils, vape pens. And she becomes very successful, and when weed gets legal, the price of growing it is like nothing. So they move up into the city now so that she can pursue this thing. She's got a warehouse now. She's famous for making weed lollipops. And it's this whole weed
Okay, that's a
lollipop
new
thing.
one.
But the husband is like this dreadlocked hippie, and he wants to like live on. He's like, what about the soil? What about the plant? You know, you're taking it, you're stripping it away of all of its nature and turning it into like a chemical. And they're like having this. They're breaking apart because of this. And they had lived in this like little cabin that was completely off grid, and now they move into a house that's like a smart house. There's a screen on everything, and the place is just haunted as fuck. Like the screens aren't working. Everything's going weird. The doors keep locking, unlocking. It's like it's crazy. And the horrible murder ensues, and the entire family falls apart. It turns into like a crazy revenge story. It goes off the rails. It starts as like a family drama exploring this dynamic between like the hippie husband and the more yuppie mom, and the way their different views on cannabis diverge, and this like whole cultural shift which is taking place right now in California with legalization, because legalization's completely like changed everything.
Yeah.
But then it just turns into out of control horror bloodbath.
Yeah. Nice. That's interesting. That's definitely, I wouldn't have seen that coming. That's good. I definitely am. I'm making sure that in My Cousin Juan that there is some blood and mutilation stuff. There's a scene I wrote where you have Juan talking with his counterpart, his cousin, and he shows him pictures about like people who he cared about very deeply and may have done deals with, and I'm like, this is the reality of the price one has to pay. Like, kind of, I put in there like a woman who was brutally raped before they started breaking her bones, or a guy whose decapitated head was mailed to his wife as kind of a trophy / message and stuff like that. I definitely try to focus on the human element. Like, this is all I know. This is what keeps us afloat. But you can't have the drug wars without war, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And I know I need to. I've considered so much about circling back to writing horror. I really have. But I think for me, it's actually a lot harder than people think it is. Am I right?
Well, it is to not be cheesy, to keep it from falling into like tropes and you know what I mean, and genre. And I mean, because I like to watch horror movies, but a lot of the books I read are not horror. I actually read more literary works, which are actually more disturbing and scary than some of the horror. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, 100%.
I don't really like. I like to watch a werewolf movie, but I don't really like reading werewolf books. Honestly, I don't know why. Sometimes it's just really well done. You know, like Stephen Graham Jones or somebody, but.
Yeah, because with werewolves, if you put it in literature, you need to make sure that the werewolf really comes alive. Like, you have to be very detailed about it and get into like the actual graphic element if you want to like clasp on to that person and really just let them understand a werewolf is a werewolf and stuff like that.
And not be silly.
Yeah.
I think the silly aspect is the hardest thing, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. One thing that I think actually can ruin horror movies or just like action in general is when they dramatize the violence and the killings too much. I don't always love that.
Yeah.
Do you feel it's good?
I like
it a lot of times. You do? Okay.
I just enjoy it. Like I was just saying, Terrifier 3, that's all it is. It's just non-stop, like this stupid clown killing people. You know what I mean? And there's like, they try to put in some kind of story. There's like, some people who are big fans will be like, well, there's a story there. There's not. It's ridiculous. There is technically a story, but it's just so stupid. I mean, it's just nonstop violence. But I mean, if you're, it's just like, it's it's like guilty pleasures. Like I was just talking about, you know what I mean? You're just like, I'm just going to watch this clown kill people. I don't want to think.
I mean, like you see a movie like Natural Born Killers and stuff like that, and that's just a slaughter fest. Is it amazing?
But they were trying to be artistic, you know what I mean? Like I like, and other violent films, Wild at Heart, you know, a lot of David Lynch stuff.
Oh, David Lynch is brilliant. He really, I think the guy has a really fucked up mind, but a brilliant perspective on filmmaking. Yeah. Yeah, because you do need that. You do need to have a bit of a sick mind in order to create this level of brilliance and stuff. But I was watching an interview about the behind the scenes making of the movie Sicario, Day of the Soldado, and stuff like that. And it was the videographer. Because if you have not seen it, you need to watch it. The videography and cinematic angles they put into it were brilliant. But he said something about it. He said, violence is violence. I don't want to dramatize it too much. It's just like if somebody's going to get shot, straight up shoot them.
Yeah. I mean, if someone's dying, it is a dramatic thing. I don't know. You know, I can see
they're
both
dying,
perspectives.
like-
I personally just I think it's like salt and pepper. You know what I mean? You can overdo it. It can be stupid. Same with sex. But it's something that just you know what I mean? It gets your blood flowing, gets your heart pumping.
No, sex needs to be pulled out, man. It has to. I mean, you and I both know how Game of Thrones is and stuff like that. It has to be pulled out. It's kind of a must. If not, it's not pleasurable.
Senseless sex and violence. I don't know. It's not very. It is what it is. It can definitely add flavor to anything. You know what I mean?
Yes, it makes it nice and spicy.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And to all of you folks out there who are willing to spice things up, who have open ears, who want to be pleasured, and all you media junkies out there, anyone who's listening in who wants to start their own podcast, you can do so using Riverside. And of course, if you want to support this podcast and have a chance to be a guest in the show, you can follow me on Instagram at ATK Media, or you can check me out on YouTube if you don't have access to Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You can check me out on YouTube. My channel is at Chatterbox 9.4. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave your thoughts in the comments section below. You can DM me via social media. And don't forget to tune in and listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or, well, wherever the fuck it is you get your podcasts from.
Cheers. Thanks.
Yes, yeah. And it was definitely great having you on the show.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yes.
Check out Murder Coaster.
Yes.
And all the places he just said.
Yes, check out Murder Coaster Podcast and every single movie television series that we have mentioned on this podcast. It will make you shit in your pants. It'll make you scream. It'll even make your eyes bleed, which is something they tend to do a lot in certain horror films. So, until next time, I'm Al Tassir. Stay high on life.